August 16, 1944. A German general leans over a map, tracing red pencil marks that close like a vice around his army. In less than a week, 50,000 men will either escape through a shrinking corridor or die. The order from Berlin is stark: hold your ground, no retreat. But the Allies are moving faster than any human calculation, 6 kilometers per day. The corridor narrows hour by hour, and the mathematics are merciless. This is the story of the Falaise Pocket, a trap built not by sudden violence, but by time, distance, and rigid command. General Paul Hausser, veteran of 2 world wars, studies his maps with quiet intensity. He's a man who has faced disaster before, but this is different. This isn't a sudden battle. It's a slow, inevitable death march written in pencil, measured in kilometers, and counted in hours. To the south, Patton's Third Army, armored spearheads cutting through German rear guards at nearly 5 kilometers per day. To the north, Canadian and Polish forces methodically advancing toward Falaise, aiming for the high ground that controls escape routes. Between them lies a corridor, 18 kilometers wide. Inside it, Hausser's 7th Army is moving east, 50,000 men, 300 tanks, thousands of trucks, ambulances, field kitchens, radio vehicles, all threading a fragile needle on 3 roads. 15 minutes ago, a message arrived from Hitler's headquarters, stamped urgent in red. Hausser reads it twice. Hold positions, prepare counterattack, withdrawal not authorized. He feels the weight of every word. Berlin does not see what he sees. It assumes reserves exist that do not. It assumes roads are clear, fuel is available, divisions are intact. None of this is true. 6 days ago, Hitler launched Operation Lüttich, a desperate counterattack to split the Allied front. It failed catastrophically. Tanks were destroyed from the air, infantry slaughtered by artillery, and still Hitler refuses to acknowledge reality. Hausser is now ordered to fight while 2 armies close a steel trap around him. The Allies move like clockwork. From the north, Operation Totalize. Canadian armor and Polish columns surge southward, smashing through exhausted German lines, targeting roads more than terrain. From the south, Patton's Third Army moves north toward Argentan, momentum building, leaving chaos in its wake. 2 columns, 1 objective: seal the Germans inside. Hausser studies the situation report from August 14th. He does the math. Gap, 25 kilometers. Canadian advance, 4 kilometers per day. American advance, 5 kilometers per day. If nothing changes, the corridor will close in 5 to 7 days. Evacuating 50,000 men is not a march, it's a nightmare of steel and logistics. 300 tanks, Panthers and Panzer IVs, fully loaded with ammunition. Thousands of trucks, ambulances, field kitchens, radio vehicles. Roads jammed with wrecked vehicles, bombed continuously by Allied fighters. Even under ideal conditions, the roads through Trun, Chambord, and Saint-Lambert can handle 300 to 400 vehicles per hour. In darkness, under fire, with bridges destroyed, 100 to 150 vehicles per hour. At that rate, it would take 14 to 20 hours of uninterrupted movement to evacuate the army. The Allies will not allow uninterrupted movement. The trap is closing. Hausser calculates. This is no longer a tactical problem. It's a logistical equation that cannot be solved. But before we go further, if you want to follow this story to its heart-stopping conclusion, hit subscribe. This is one of history's most brutal lessons in strategy, timing, and survival. August 14th, 7:30 p.m. Hausser sends a formal withdrawal request to Field Marshal Walter Model. 7th Army situation critical. Gap closing rapidly. Current lines untenable. Request immediate authorization for full withdrawal. Without authorization within 24 hours, preservation of fighting strength becomes mathematically impossible. Response at 10:15 p.m. from Berlin. All units will hold current positions. Prepare renewed counterattack toward Avranches. Withdrawal not authorized. The counterattack is westward toward the coast, while the Allies close from north and south. Hitler's intelligence is 5 days old. Hausser watches the corridor shrink, kilometer by kilometer. Scene: the decision. August 15th, 6 a.m. Overnight, the gap shrinks to 20 kilometers. Allied air attacks destroy 340 vehicles in one night. Fuel shortages prevent resupply. Infantry units lose cohesion. Roads become graves. At 10 a.m., Hausser makes a dangerous, subtle move. Carefully worded orders. Adjust defensive positions eastward. Tactical repositioning of heavy equipment. Mobile rear guard operations. Not a retreat, but everyone understands what it means. Move now while there is still time. By 6 p.m., the gap is 18 kilometers. Patton pushes north. Canadians reach Falaise outskirts. Polish 1st Armored Division drives from the north. Hausser asks the question he's been dreading. If the gap closes before we evacuate, how many men will be trapped? Answer: 60,000 soldiers, including support units and stragglers. 4 days lost to Hitler's refusal. The trap is inescapable. The morning fog clings to the valleys of Normandy. General Hausser walks among the maps and reports in his command post. The corridor, once 25 kilometers wide, is now just 18 kilometers. Every kilometer represents hours of movement, thousands of men, hundreds of vehicles. Every delay means death. From Hill 262, the Polish 1st Armored Division watches the roads like hawks. Artillery observers mark every movement. Each convoy of trucks, every column of marching infantry becomes a target. The Allies are closing the trap, and Hausser knows it. Time is no longer an ally, it is an executioner. At 2 p.m., a radio intercept shatters any hope of reprieve. Polish forces have captured Hill 262. From that ridge, they can observe every vehicle trying to escape east. At 4 p.m., Berlin finally sends the order Hausser has been begging for. All units withdraw east immediately. But it is 5 days too late. The corridor is still 18 kilometers, far too narrow to evacuate everyone. Hausser knows his window is shrinking, 72 hours at most before the pocket closes. Hausser moves fast. The 2nd SS Panzer Division takes up the western rearguard. The 116th Panzer holds the southern flank. Their mission: keep the escape corridor open long enough for infantry divisions to move through. But the roads are hell. Allied fighter bombers strike every 30 minutes. Columns crawl through darkness. Abandoned fuel trucks burning along the roadside. Ammunition is dumped. Guns are left behind. The German army sheds everything heavy, everything slow. Chaos reigns. By 6 a.m., reports are coming in of entire units surrendering. The 353rd Infantry Regiment is out of ammunition. The 84th Infantry Regiment is trapped by collapsed bridges. The gap is 15 kilometers, but it is no longer a wide corridor. It is a box, surrounded by Canadian, Polish, and American forces. Every kilometer forward is contested. Every road junction is a death trap. Artillery pounds intersections. Fighter bombers swoop from above. Smoke and flame turn the landscape into a surreal battlefield. Night falls. Hausser has not slept in days. Reports from reconnaissance units show the destruction is escalating. Bridges over the Dives River captured or blown. Road junctions destroyed. Units are scattering, trying to navigate by darkness, losing contact with their formations. By 4 a.m., the gap has shrunk to 12 kilometers. By noon, 8 kilometers. At this pace, the pocket will seal within 24 to 36 hours. Hausser's calculations are grim. Only about 30,000 men remain in the corridor. The rest are trapped inside, facing certain capture or death. 10 p.m. Hausser positions himself near Chambois, the final observation point. The gap, 3 kilometers. To the west, Polish forces dominate Hill 262. To the south, American armor closes from Argentan. The roads are jammed with men on foot, abandoned vehicles burning behind them. The sky is lit by tracer fire. Artillery screams overhead. A runner bursts into Hausser's command post. Polish forces are attacking Hill 262 from both sides. The 2nd SS Panzer can hold only 4 to 6 more hours. After that, the escape corridor will be fully exposed. Hausser makes his decision. 11:15 p.m. Hausser leads the headquarters staff through the corridor. A column of 2,000 men, walking wounded, communication specialists, senior officers, moves east under constant fire. At 12:30 a.m. August 20th, they enter Chambois. Machine guns fire from Polish positions. American artillery strikes behind them. Men fall. Others continue moving. Hausser is at the rear, protecting his staff, uniform torn, jaw tight from shrapnel wounds absorbed just minutes before. By 2:15 a.m., they are through. He turns back. Thousands are still trapped. Explosions echo. The corridor is narrowing by the second. For Hausser, this is a personal calculus. Orders disobeyed, risk execution. Orders obeyed, lose his army. 4 days lost to Hitler's refusal, and now the cost is counted in thousands of lives, hundreds of tanks, and destroyed divisions. The Falaise Pocket is no longer theoretical. It is real, brutal, and inescapable. The first light of August 20th breaks over Normandy. The Falaise Pocket is almost sealed. The narrow corridor through which thousands of German soldiers have been streaming east is now barely 3 kilometers wide. Artillery fire echoes in the distance. Smoke rises from abandoned vehicles and shattered bridges. The landscape is a tapestry of destruction, chaos, and despair. General Hausser watches from a farmhouse 30 kilometers east of Falaise. Shrapnel wounds from the previous night throb in his jaw. Every minute the calculations haunt him. How many men could have escaped? How many have already been lost? The last organized columns of the 7th Army begin to move under Hausser's direct supervision. Infantry units march through mud and rubble, stepping over the bodies of comrades and horses alike. Tanks, stripped of supplies and ammunition, are abandoned along the roadside. Artillery pieces are left behind, ammunition stocks burned to prevent capture. The 2nd SS Panzer Division remains the Western rearguard. Their mission: buy enough time for as many men as possible to escape. Every minute is measured in human lives. By 6 a.m., Canadian and Polish forces link up at Chambois. The Falaise Pocket is completely sealed. Any remaining Germans trapped inside are now prisoners or dead. The counting begins. Numbers that will haunt historians for decades. 20 to 25,000 Germans escaped, most on foot, carrying little more than personal weapons. 50,000 remained trapped. Of them, 10,000 killed by artillery, airstrikes, and chaotic fighting during the breakout. 40,000 captured, the largest German surrender since Stalingrad. Material losses are catastrophic. 344 tanks destroyed or abandoned, Panthers and Panzer IVs that Germany could never replace. The 2nd SS Panzer and 116th Panzer Divisions entered Normandy with over 200 tanks. They left with fewer than 15. 2,447 soft-skin vehicles lost, along with 252 artillery pieces. Thousands of horses, essential for moving supplies, were killed or drowned. The Seventh Army, once a formidable combat force, no longer exists. Its divisions have been decimated, its command structure shattered. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitler Youth entered Normandy with 20,540 soldiers. Only 2,000 remained. 94% attrition. No commanding officers, no experienced NCOs. What remains is not a division, it is a collection of military refugees, still in uniform, still marching east. Hausser sits in silence. His chief of operations delivers a single statement that pierces him. "If we'd received withdrawal authorization on August 12th, sir, we could have saved 70,000 men. We could have preserved heavy equipment, divisional organization, command structures, everything." 4 days. 4 days of delay, dictated by Hitler's refusal to accept reality, sealed the fate of an entire army. The Falaise Pocket is a case study in military mathematics and logistics. Courage and tactical skill alone could not overcome the overwhelming power of coordinated air and ground forces. Time, space, and infrastructure mattered as much as bullets and shells. Integrated Allied systems, air support, artillery coordination, industrial supply chains crushed the veteran German army despite its skill and training. For Hausser, the moral calculus is inescapable. Obey orders and risk annihilation, or defy command to save lives. The decision is timeless, a haunting lesson in the tension between obedience and survival. The Falaise Pocket stands as a reminder. Wars are not only won by heroes or strategy, they are won by systems, coordination, and ruthless arithmetic. What would you have done in Hausser's position? Obey orders and lose everything, or defy command to save lives? Let us know in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share this with someone who loves history, and subscribe for more deep dives into battles that shaped the world. Perfect. Here's part 4, the final part of your documentary-style script. This will cover the aftermath, strategic consequences, long-term lessons, and the human historical perspective, wrapping up your story. August 21st, 1944. Normandy lies in smoke and ruin. The sound of artillery has faded. Fighter bombers patrol overhead, but the destruction is done. The Falaise Pocket, once a corridor for tens of thousands of German soldiers, is now a sealed tomb for 50,000 men. Fields are littered with burned-out vehicles, shattered tanks, abandoned rifles, and the bodies of men and horses alike. Villages like Chambois, Trun, and Saint-Lambert are flattened. The roads that once funneled men eastward are now rivers of debris. From a distance, Allied officers survey the scene, taking note of both the human and material cost. The battle is over, but its consequences will reverberate across the remainder of the war. The annihilation of the Seventh Army is a turning point. Army Group B no longer is a coherent fighting force. The Allies now control a massive section of Normandy, opening the path to Paris and the rest of northern France. German ability to resist in Western Europe is irreversibly weakened. Hitler's refusal to authorize withdrawal earlier highlights the consequences of rigid command structures. Even the most experienced generals cannot overcome inflexible orders when time, space, and logistics work against them. Hausser reflects, 4 days. 4 days of delay, and the difference is 70,000 men lost, thousands of vehicles destroyed, entire divisions erased from the battlefield. The material losses alone are staggering. Hundreds of tanks, artillery pieces, trucks, and supply wagons destroyed or captured. The Seventh Army enters history as a cautionary tale. Experience and training are meaningless without mobility and logistics. The Allied victory demonstrates the power of combined arms warfare. Coordinated infantry, armor, artillery, and air power, overwhelming even elite forces. German commanders are left to consider not just the lives lost, but the lessons that could have been learned. Battlefield math, timing, and the importance of flexible decision-making are as lethal as any weapon. The survivors carry scars, physical and psychological. Soldiers who escaped do so with nothing but personal weapons and a fragment of their units. Prisoners face harsh conditions in Allied captivity. Families and communities in Normandy mourn the devastation, the deaths, and the lost infrastructure. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitler Youth, once 20,540 strong, emerges with only 2,000. The human toll is unimaginable. Yet in these tragedies, historians see a lesson. War is not just fought with bullets. It is a calculation of time, space, supply, and intelligence. Today, military analysts study the Falaise Pocket as one of history's most decisive operational encirclements. It illustrates the importance of logistics over valor, mathematics over bravery. Commanders must balance obedience to orders with initiative to save lives. The pocket demonstrates that even experienced veterans cannot survive against overwhelming coordination and resource superiority. The story of Hausser and the Seventh Army becomes a lens for understanding the intersection of human courage, leadership, and the cold arithmetic of war. The Falaise Pocket leaves a clear lesson for military and civilian minds alike. Systems and strategy often outweigh individual heroism. Time is the deadliest weapon in war. Leadership decisions can mean the difference between survival and annihilation. As Hausser later reflects, the decisions he made were not just about obedience, they were about salvaging what remained of humanity in an impossible situation. The fields of Falaise are quiet once more, yet their silence echoes with the stories of those who fought, fled, or perished. The destruction is a stark reminder of the price of rigid command and the brutal efficiency of modern warfare. The Falaise Pocket is more than a battle. It is a calculation, a tragedy, and a lesson. For us, the story raises enduring questions. What would you do in Hausser's position? How do you balance orders against the survival of your men? How do you survive when systems and numbers are against you? History answers these questions with bodies, vehicles, and shattered towns. And it reminds us that even in chaos, choices matter. If this story moved you, share it with someone who loves history. Subscribe for more deep dives into battles where math, time, and leadership intersected with human courage. History is not just about what happened, it's about understanding why it happened.